I never thought I'd feel like an outsider at my own brother's wedding. But that day, sitting in the hallway while everyone else celebrated inside, I realized just how invisible I had become to my own family. My brother, Andrew, and I used to be inseparable. He was 3 years older than me, but growing up we were best friends. We'd play video games late at night, sneak snacks before dinner, and cover for each other when we got into trouble. But things changed after college. Andrew went on to become a successful real estate agent, while I took a different path. I struggled after university. I bounced between jobs, working as a delivery driver, then as a customer service rep, and later trying my hand at photography. My parents were proud of Andrew. They'd brag about his new car, his house, his success. Me? I was the quiet disappointment, the one who still hadn't figured it out. When Andrew got engaged to Claire, our parents threw a huge party to celebrate. Claire was beautiful, confident, and from a wealthy family. I liked her at first. She seemed kind, though a little reserved around me. But as wedding planning started, I noticed something strange. I wasn't really included. I wasn't asked to be the best man, even though I thought I would be. That honor went to Andrew's college friend, Josh. I didn't complain. I figured maybe Josh was closer to him now. But then, my name started disappearing from things. The guest list meetings, the family photos, even the rehearsal dinner plans. Every time I asked if I could help, my mother would say, "Oh honey, just show up and enjoy the day." Still, I was happy for my brother. Or at least, I wanted to be. When the wedding day finally arrived, I put on my best suit, the only one I owned, and got to the venue early. It was a massive hotel ballroom, beautifully decorated with white roses, candles, and chandeliers. Everyone was buzzing with excitement. I walked up to the seating chart to find my place. My heart dropped when I saw my name. Table 27, hallway section. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe there was a typo. But when I asked the coordinator, she smiled politely and said, "Oh yes, you're in the overflow area, right through those doors." Overflow area? I followed her direction and ended up in, no exaggeration, a narrow hallway just outside the main ballroom. There were a few small tables set up, mostly for last-minute guests or people who didn't RSVP properly. The view, a wall, the sound, muffled music from inside. I just stood there, staring. My brother, my only sibling, had me sitting in the hallway at his wedding. Still, I tried to stay calm. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe they overbooked, or someone messed up. I sent Andrew a text. "Hey, I think there's been a mistake. I'm seated outside." No reply. I waited. The ceremony started. I could barely hear anything from where I was. People laughed, clapped, toasted. Meanwhile, I sat alone, pretending to be okay. Then, during dinner, one of the servers came by and whispered awkwardly, "Would you like your meal, sir? We can bring it here, or you could stand inside by the bar if you prefer." That's when it hit me. I didn't belong there. Not that day. Not in that family moment. I stood up quietly, left the untouched plate on the table, and walked out. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't yell or cry. I just left. I drove for hours that night with no destination in mind. I ended up at a quiet lookout spot, the same one Andrew and I used to go to as kids. I sat there, watching the city lights, wondering how we'd gone from brothers to strangers. I didn't text or call anyone after that. I turned off my phone and stayed offline for days. 3 days later, I finally checked my messages. My phone was flooded. Texts from my mom, dad, even some cousins. But one message caught my eye. From Claire. It said, "Can we talk, please? I owe you an explanation." I didn't know what to think, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a small cafe near her office the next day. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Before I could even speak, she said, "I'm so sorry for what happened at the wedding." I nodded silently. She sighed. "It wasn't my decision. Your brother, he didn't want to offend his in-laws. We had limited seating inside, and they insisted on inviting extra guests. He told me you'd understand if you had to sit outside temporarily. Temporarily. I felt a lump in my throat. So, I was the expendable one. Tears welled up in her eyes. I told him it was wrong. He said he'd fix it, but never did. Then after you left, people noticed you were gone. Your dad made a joke about you being too sensitive, and everyone just moved on. I didn't know whether to feel angry or heartbroken. She looked down and whispered, I know it's not my place, but you didn't deserve that. And honestly, the way your brother handled everything, it's made me see him differently. I thanked her and left. I thought that would be the end of it. But a week later, something unbelievable happened. Andrew showed up at my apartment. He looked uncomfortable, holding a small box in his hands. Hey, he said awkwardly. I didn't respond. He sighed. Look, about the wedding. Things got out of control. I had to make some choices. I cut him off. You chose everyone else over your own brother. He ran his hand through his hair. You don't understand. Claire's parents paid for most of it. They wanted their business partners up front. I didn't have a choice. That was the moment I realized just how different we were. There's always a choice, Andrew, I said quietly. You just didn't choose me. He didn't argue. He just handed me the box. Inside was a silver wristwatch, old and familiar. It was Mom's gift to me when I graduated, he said. But she wanted us to share it someday. I think she'd want you to have it now. I didn't take it. I just said, I don't need gifts, Andrew. I needed respect. He left without saying another word. Months passed. We didn't talk. Then, one morning I got a call from Claire again. Her voice was shaky. I thought you should know. We're separating. I was stunned. What? Why? She hesitated. Because I realized I married someone who doesn't stand up for the people he loves. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't say much. I felt bad for her, but I also knew she was right. Life went on. I focused on my photography and finally started getting some recognition online. A few of my photos went viral, and before long I got hired for my first big project, shooting a charity event at a luxury resort. The irony? It was the same hotel where my brother's wedding had been held. When I got there, I couldn't help but smile a little. I walked through the same hallways, the same ballroom. But this time, I wasn't the one standing outside. I was behind the camera, in control, documenting the kind of beauty I used to feel excluded from. Halfway through the event, I heard a familiar voice. I turned, and there was Andrew. He froze when he saw me. He looked different, tired, maybe humbled. He said quietly, I didn't know you'd be here. I shrugged. Guess the hallway's big enough for both of us. He winced. You still mad? I paused. Not mad, just done. He nodded slowly. You look good, though. Looks like you're doing well. I smiled faintly. Better than before. He wanted to say more, but I walked away. Not out of spite, but because I finally understood something. I didn't need his approval anymore. The next week, my photos from that event were published in a local magazine. The editor called it, a story told through light and silence. It was the biggest compliment I'd ever received. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message from my dad. It said, Saw your work in the paper. We're proud of you, son. That one line meant more than anything I'd heard in years. Now, whenever I think back to that wedding, sitting in that hallway, feeling invisible, I realize it was the moment everything changed. It was painful, yes, but it pushed me to stop waiting for a seat at someone else's table and start building my own. Sometimes, being excluded is the universe's way of telling you that you re-meant for something greater. Because that day, I left the hallway behind. And what happened next? The success, the peace, the independence, stunned everyone. Even me.